everybody. How are you doing today? I hope everybody's doing well. Listen, let's talk a little bit about ego. Let's talk a little bit about self-esteem and self-importance, because that's what ego is. It's a person's sense of self-esteem and their sense of self-importance. So I want to talk to you guys about ego, because ego tends to get us sometimes into trouble, only because of a person may say something to us, and our sense of self-importance or our sense of self-esteem is activated based upon what that person says. Now, what we don't realize is that sometimes people say things to us, or they do things to us based upon their the way that they grew up, the way that they've been handled, the way that they've been mishandled, some childhood traumas, a whole host of reasons why people say, act, and do the things that they say, act, and do. That has nothing to do with you, and has nothing to do with your self-importance, or nothing to do with your self-esteem at all. It's all about them. It's all about them feeling like they're backed into a corner, and they come out swinging because they've been triggered in some way, shape, or form. So, having said that, this past weekend, my partner had gone to an event. She had been working on this event for a couple of months with two other people that she's familiar with. And we already knew kind of how these two people operate, sometimes. And before the event, I said to my partner, we don't know what is going to happen, but it's all going to be beautiful. Every piece and part of it is going to be beautiful, no matter what happens. And that, you know that these two people, how they are. And so I want you to go into that being prepared for anything, no specifically thing, because we don't know what's going to happen, but be prepared, be prepared in your psyche to know that, there may be some things that they may do. Don't take it personal, keep it moving. So anyway, we get to the space. Well, I don't get to the space. They get to the space. They do whatever it is that they're doing for this event. Lasts a couple hours. So later on, after the event, my partner calls me when everything is, died down. Everything has been cleaned up. Everything. So we're talking about what happened and how she felt about some things. And I could totally get how she felt about some things. And in an instant, because, she's my partner, I wanted to go and blow their worlds up. Like I really wanted to, for just a moment, I really wanted to go and blow their worlds up. But what good would that do me going blowing their worlds up and end up in jail? And then just some other stuff happened. I'm sitting in jail and they all cool and fine afterwards. Like, So anyway, it's not worth it, is what I'm trying to say. What's more important is what we get, the lessons that we learn from what actually happened. So as we were talking about it, I asked her, I said, well, why don't you walk me through the day? Why don't you tell me what the energy was like? Why don't you tell me what the people that were there at the event was like? Tell me all of those things. So as she was telling me those things, I began to understand why those two people, because again, I know them through her. Now I don't really know them, but I know them through her. So I know what their particular, their issues were, So I told her, I said, well, after she finished talking, I said, well, first and foremost, let's really take a good look at this, because you told me X, Y, and Z, basically what the energy was like and what was going on, around that person. So what I gather is that they were anxious. There was some type of anxiety going on or building up within them because of what was going on. And so because she's the closest person to them, they lashed out at her. And kind of the same thing with the other person, lashed out at her. because of the same type of issue. Now, when we begin, and I'm not saying it was right or it was wrong, but at the same time, here, let's break this down. It really wasn't about you. It was about them and how they were feeling. This person already has some type of anxiety about big crowds and things of that nature. This person has some anxiety because they're handling money and they want to make sure that, money is, how it's supposed to be. So at the same time, when you know that about them, you can understand why they're having these feelings or why they're kind of lashing out, and not take it personal, not walk inside your ego because of your self-importance or your self-esteem has something to do with these people, when it really doesn't. It's all about them. So anyway, we were having this conversation about that, and it just made me think about a lot of situations that, in the past that I've handled with other people, when they've come to me and they've told me, what had happened, and I was all down with them in their low vibrational energy, and sat with them and said, oh wait, they shouldn't have done this, that, and the other, blah blah blah. We all sitting there, we all hyped up because of something somebody did, instead of talking to them and saying, let's break this down, because I don't really believe it's about you. I don't believe that they did that because of you. You're a loving, caring person, and you're always wanting to help people, or in some cases where I've been with people talk to them a certain way, and it's not my partner, but other people that I love and care about. Because when you love and care about somebody, you want to blow somebody's world up, because they shouldn't be talking to my friend like that, or my cousin, or my partner, or my child, or my whatever like that, and you want to go and blow up the whole world because of it. Now, I'm not saying there's not some instances where, I have not done those things. I have, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I want to be able to look at things and say, is it worth me really going and blowing up, over some situations like that? Because it's really not necessary. That person themselves are dealing with something. And those two people at that particular time were dealing with some anxiety. They were anxiety ridden, and they kind of lashed out. That's what people who are anxious do. You know what I'm saying? And when we take something personal like that and begin to, walk in our ego, then we have this battle of egos going back and forth. And it's so not necessary. You know what I'm saying? Later on, have a conversation with that person if you feel that is necessary, and say, you know what, I get that you probably was anxious. There was a lot of, going on. There's high energies, a bunch of people there. We're trying to make sure that everybody was taken care of. And because everybody don't handle high energy, the best ways. Some people, a lot of stuff start happening, and they start breaking down, and lashing out at everybody. And it's not anything personal. You can't take it personal. They just can't handle it. So if they cannot handle it, and you're sitting there and you're, wanting to take it all on personally, it's not about you. It really isn't. It's not about you. So you getting down and dirty and getting into that low vibrational thinking and feeling and being with them, you're doing nothing to make the situation better at all. You just really aren't. And so, we just talked about some things that, help her to see, not only too, why did you feel that way? What makes you feel, why did you take that on personally? Let's break this whole situation down. We already know that, they're not more or less, enlightened beings. We know that they don't always function from a higher state of being. And not to say that these people, that there's anything wrong with them, because we all learn and grow and evolve at different states. And it doesn't matter if you 75, if you 85 or 100, if you still living and you haven't still grown mentally. Trust me, there are still some people that are in that state of mind, but it doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is age really doesn't matter. It's all about how you grow and wanting to really grow, because some people don't. They want to stay in that space, or some people don't know how to move to the next space because they don't have enough people not only showing them that they can do something different, but also telling them how to do something different. So another thing is when we realize that you can stay in your ego, you can be in your ego and they could be in their ego and nothing gets resolved. Ego is all about the self, what you believe or what you perceive as your self-esteem, what you perceive as your self-importance, not self-worth, because you already know what you're worth. So that person saying something to you don't diminish your worth at all. Now that whole thing of self-importance, that's something totally different. Well, I'm too important for you to talk to me like that. I'm too this for you to talk to me like that. It has nothing to do with you. And nothing to do with you. What they said does not diminish you in any way, shape, or form. So keep it moving. You know what I mean? You can look at them a little bit like, okay, and keep it moving. All right, next, you do whatever you're doing, finish what you're doing, whatever the case may be. What happens is the people who we go to tell them about something that happened to us, we have two types of people that we can go to and talk to. We're either, and it depends on us. It depends on us and how we really want to handle the situation. Do we want to use the situation as a growth situation, or do we want to use the situation to fuel the fire that is already happening inside of us? So you can go to a person, any of your friends. You have types of friends who will be down for you, ride for you, sit in that anger with you, or some other people, so different friends that'll ride for you and helping you to elevate from that situation and say, you know what, let's break that down, because it seems like you're taking that personal. Why are you taking that personal? Especially if you know those people and you know how they react, you know what was going on in the situation, that they were triggered. They were triggered by some things that, was going on and how they feel about themselves. It was nothing to do with you. And then you can begin to look at that situation different. Now, in some cases, we know our friends too. We know our people. We know sometimes they talk too much, they do too much, they say too much, they walk too much, they whatever. Sometimes they do some things that trigger other people. And so you have to also be the kind of friend where they say, you know what? Well, tell me about the situation. What had happened? Well, could you have done this? You know what I'm saying? Because you already know that they do this. Could you have done this? We have to be able to talk to our people in a sense to help elevate them and not always sit in the mire and muck with them and want to go toe to toe with other people because of them. That's not good. It's not. It's all about your ego and their ego, all our egos, and the people who happen to say whatever they said or did whatever they did, their ego as well. And it's not that. We have to begin to move in a different way. We have to begin to move in a different way, because if we do not, we're going to stay down in this particular space all the time. No one ever rises up because we're always worried about what somebody's saying about us, what somebody doing to us, how they think about us, what they feel about us. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? So what? You said something. All right. I know that you are a childish person. I know that you're not very, highly enlightened. And that's not judgmental. It's stating that I know what is, and so why would I allow myself to get down in that space where I've grown to this particular space, or I've gone to this particular space. I've gone to this space, because it's not always linear, you know what I'm saying? But that thing I might have grown from the way that they're acting. So I'm not going to go back to that. So, well, I understand how you're feeling. I'm going to keep it moving and continue doing whatever it is. And it's hard. I'm not trying to say that it's not hard, because it is. It's hard. It's hard, because at first when she was talking to me about this, I wanted to go and blow their worlds up. But then I thought about that. How would I feel later after I've blown up their worlds? Would I feel good about myself? Would I feel that I handled the situation the right way? Because I'm telling you, I don't know about you, there's a lot of situations that I look back on the next day, the next minute, depending upon how crazy I acted, and say, oh, that's not what I was going for. It really was not. But I allowed that situation, whatever that low vibrational thing was that was already happening. I just jumped into it and just start swimming and stroking along with that person, instead of just saying, you know what, I'm going to handle this a little bit differently. I understand you might be triggered about, what's going on around you. I understand that, maybe you're feeling a certain way and whatever the case may be. But get you some friends that, are always going to tell you the truth and say, you know what, well, that it's a shame that that person said that. But, we already know the state of mindset that they're in. So, if you continue to allow that to affect you in whatever way, you got to look at, why are you allowing that to affect you? Why? What's going on with you that you're allowing it to affect you that way? Let's break that down. Is there something that happened to you once before, in life, that something like this happened before and it made you feel a certain way? What do we need to do to heal from that? So everything, it's about healing and moving into different spaces, and to helping the people around us to heal and to move from different spaces, rather than always, jumping in the bandwagon with them and, and wanting to duke it out with other people. Because there's nothing enlightening about that at all. There's nothing enlightening about that at all. And I'm not saying that in some situation you got to fight. You might have to fight for your life, but there are times when you really do not have to fight. It's not necessary. So figure out and be enlightened enough to figure out where those occasions are, be able to say, well, we ain't going to duke this one out, because it doesn't really even make any sense to. We're talking about two people. It's like children. It's like going and fighting some children. Why would you go and fight children? They haven't even grown yet. They haven't even, learned anything yet. The people around them haven't taught them enough, to be in a higher state of mindset. It's like fighting children. Don't do that. Don't do that. Stop that. You're grown. You know what I mean? You're grown. You're elevated. You have moved to a different state in life. Don't do that. Anyway, I've talked you guys' heads off enough, but I just kind of wanted to talk about that. Get you some people in your life that will not allow you to always walk in ego, or to walk in ego, period. Get you some people in your life that'll tell you the truth, that will say, you know what, Kai, you shouldn't have said that, or Kai, you might have been able to say that a little bit different. Or could you see how that person, reacted that way because, you said X, Y, and Z, not that it was wrong, or not that it was, that, they didn't need to hear that. But you can understand why, what I'm saying? They're coming from a whole totally different state of being. They've got a lot of trauma maybe that's happening within them. So that's why they said what they said and they lashed out at you. It has nothing to do with you, though. It's how they feel. It's how whatever it was that you said, whatever it was that you did, that made them feel, could be. Or it could have reminded them of some trauma or something that happened in their life in the past. And they maybe thought that they had healed from it. But here it is, this thing came up again and they had not, There's a whole host of reasons why people act the way that they do. But if you just jump into, a battle with them and not really know where the situation comes from, it doesn't make any sense. Like you have fought and used up energy that was so unnecessary, when you could have later on or after the situation, however it permits, and say to them, well, I don't know if you're, dealing with some trauma. I don't know if, that whatever is going on right now is a trigger for you based upon something that happened to you in your life, but, I do believe that how you just spoke to me was not necessary. You could however it is that you want to do it. But, just think about that. Think about people's lives and where they've come from. You yourself, you done lashed out at people that was totally unnecessary. I know I have, I've done that. I've said some things, to some people, in my past, and had to go back later and apologize for it and say, I'm so sorry. I really shouldn't have said that. It had really nothing to do with you. It's just something, that you said triggered me. It triggered me back to a time when whatever happened. You know what I mean? You have to be able to see where people are, really see who they are, and not jump in boats with them, because you thinking they're, disrespecting you. Your ego's like, oh, they disrespecting you. Your self-importance is on the line. Your self-esteem is on the line. No, it is not. No one has that kind of power over you to devalue you in any way, shape, or form. Your value is already inside of you, and no one can change that. Peace. Deuces. Love you guys. Make today great.